Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Following the great victory at the Battle of Gettysburg, Major Thomas Worcester Hyde, pictured here, exhausted and also exhilarated, worried that his Union Army of the Potomac was not going to move quickly to bag General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia before it slipped through Pennsylvania and Maryland, crossed the Potomac, and escaped to the relative safety of Virginia. Hyde had good cause for concern. A 22-year-old graduate of Bowdoin College who began his war service with the 7th Maine Infantry, and now a staff officer to Major General John Sedgwick, Hyde had seen the Army drag its feet and stall when opportunities to aggressively pursue a wounded and retreating foe presented itself. Long after the war in 1894, Hyde told the story of the days after the end of the battle in his memoirs. That book, titled Following the Greek Cross or Memories of the Sixth Army Corps, includes a number of recollections, including what the aftermath of battle was like. Before I read it, you'll want to pay attention to references to Major General Phil Sheridan, staff members Lieutenant Andrews and Colonel Martin T. McMahon, a servant named Bennett, temperance leader and Union General Neil Dow, the late Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and of course Sedgwick. Hyde begins. Morning arose, dreary and pale, upon the battlefield of Gettysburg. It would soon resemble a vast charnel house, but the work of covering up the mangled, blackened clay and caring for poor, maimed humanity was busily going on. The depression following great excitement was upon us, and it seemed as if our army was about to do its usual waiting after a victory. Whether wise or not, we did wait all day, and the rain fell in torrents. This was one of the days we needed Sheridan. Not until the next afternoon did orders come for the Sixth Corps to lead in the pursuit. General Sedgwick sent Lieutenant Andrews and me to visit the rebel hospitals and estimate the number of their wounded. In this painful duty, the time wore away, occasionally enlivened by the meeting of my companion and some fellow West Pointer of the Confederate Army, and their struggles at first to be very angry with each other were amusing to me. At nightfall, we managed to lose our way, though we had started out all right toward the noise of a distant cannonade where our corps were trying to force a mountain pass. We rode on until midnight, utterly lost, and at length, seeing many lights on a hill beyond, for a time we thought we were up with the enemy. Carefully reconnoitering, however, we got to a large house where some 30 of the country people were holding a jubilee over our victory. They had as yet seen no one from the Union Army, and the most unbounded hospitality was pressed upon us. We soon tore ourselves away from this Capua, and, getting the right direction at last, caught up with our headquarters by daybreak. Things had been going wrong. The general was walking up and down in the middle of the road, full of unusual wrath. We reported and were put to work at once in as hard riding as we could do for the rest of that dismal day. Toward night, we came to a mountain after known in our annals as Mount Misery. The road lay directly over its summit, rocky and narrow. By midnight, the head of our column reached the cloudy top in profound darkness and storm. The troops filled the steep highway, which was fast becoming a torrent, and their unusual fatigue made a halt necessary. Word came that our artillery and ammunition wagons had mistaken their orders, which were to take a different and much longer road around the mountain, and has got up as far as the hillside as the tired animals could draw their loads. The general sent McMahon and me back with the directions to turn the batteries about and get them on their proper way. Now we could not ride down on the road, which was not much more than a footpath, and full of weary men lying where they had halted. So we started to go down the side of the mountain. My man Bennett rode a white horse that cast a faint glimmer a few steps off, so we let him go first and took a zigzag direction down through the woods and over the rocks. We got there somehow, stumbling and sliding, scratched and torn by the branches and wet to the skin, and only the instinct of our good horses preserved us from going over some of the numerous precipices on the route. At the foot were the red artillery, fast asleep in the narrow road. Every battery and wagon had to be harnessed and turned about by hand, and we had many fine opportunities to curb our tempers, for they did not like to be waked up, and some were disposed to question our authority. At last, about 3 in the morning, the job was done, and finding a barn nearby, we led our worn out horses into the haymow, and there we stretched out, master and man, upon the soft hay as upon a bed of Elysium. How good it felt! And when Bennett produced a small flask of wine of the country, I believe even Neil Dow would have joined us had he been in those parts. But we could not sleep long. The farmer came out to feed his cattle and discovered the tree tramps and made us come in for breakfast. The memory of those flapjacks is still remnant after some 30 years. He and the good wife may have been gathered to their fathers long since, and if living, it is not probable they should ever see these lines, but I wish they could know we are still thankful. The bright sun was shining, the meadows were drying, as we cheerfully galloped along through the beautiful valley to catch up with our people, and it was restful not to be looking out for the guerrillas at every turn, as in Virginia. We were getting down into a familiar country again, lovely Maryland. As we came near the pretty little village of Funkstown, a familiar rattling skirmish fire made itself apparent, and we could see in the distance a line of rebel infantry charging upon a thin and scattered blue line of ours, and we saw the enemy give back and run, then rally and come forward, only to again break and go to the rear. The Vermont Brigade, in a superb skirmish line, were giving their usual good account of themselves. Then we caught up with our staff and were chafed vigorously upon our disheveled appearance. 2 days and nights in the saddle would make even a young Adonis look unkempt. I had no claims to be an Adonis, but Andrews had. And so when I rode with him into Funkstown and saw a most beatific vision of a young woman on the porch of the principal house waving two Confederate flags, I noticed that her hostile eyes softened and she changed from a very Bologna to only a handsome girl at the sight of my good looking companion. Andrew said, "Let's call on the Funkstown traitress." And we did. She received us like a young queen, told of her rides of 40 miles or more to carry intelligence to Stonewall Jackson, and gloried in her patriotism while we gloried in her beauty. Before our duties called us beyond Funkstown, her hatred for the Yankees had relaxed, and she was naught but pure womanly. Where she is now, I know not, but the prejudices of that day put one side, she was but a brave young American girl. Yes, a heroine. Lee's army had got into position in a semicircle on our side of the Potomac, and we looked them over with the view of attacking. There was a council of war, and as usual, we didn't fight. It has always been clear to my mind that the council was right. I had the presentiment often told that I was going to be killed that day, and I respected the decision of the council. It was a question of attacking entrenched works with no special advantage on our side. Such a thing was dangerous then, in these later days of war, simply impossible. The blunder of letting them get and entrench the position should weigh heavily upon the reputation of the general who was responsible for it. That night over the river, they went in a most masterly way. Our cavalry picked up a lot of prisoners, And the next evening, about 1,000 were turned over to me to care for. Seeing a beautiful field, I corralled them there under guard and went to much needed sleep, which was soon broken by a message that General Sedgwick wanted to see me. He made apparent to my dazed senses that my field was within hail of the rebel pickets on the other side of the Potomac, and that my prisoners would before morning silently steal away. It is unnecessary to say that I promptly removed them, but it is one of my many pleasant recollections of my kind general that this time his chaff was silent and he did not tell the boys. So there you have the story of a staff member to Major General John Sedgwick discussing what it was like on July 4th, 5th, and 6th, those heady days after the Battle of Gettysburg, when were hopes to catch the rebel army off guard as it moved back through Pennsylvania and Maryland to Virginia. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.